Hi everyone, well we're in the vineyard again today and we're barely into July, and as you can see behind me, vines grow out of control really quickly. It was only a couple of weeks ago, I think, that we did a video on leaf management, and that was really just the start of managing these vines so that they grow in a more orderly fashion. So this video is going to be more of the same, but it's just going to be the next step on. So let's get straight into it. So a few weeks ago we started putting these vines behind the first set of catch wires. They've grown such an extent in just sort of 2 or 3 weeks or so that really now they're getting above the top set of catch wires. So the easy thing to do for the first stage of this video anyway is to take the top catch wire off completely and bring it down and loop everything behind it so that we start to create a much better leaf wall. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put the camera down so you can see exactly what I do. First things first, we're going to unhook the top catch wire from the hook nails. If you're using metal posts, then it's a little bit easier to do. On the older part of the vineyard, I'm using hook nails, except 1 or 2 occasions where I ran out, I used the staples. Staples are nowhere near as good because actually you want to take the line completely off and bring it down and hook all the, the canes behind it. I'll show you exactly what I mean, but I've got to take all the wires off first. Sometimes you find that the tendrils are wrapping around there's a good example up here, wrapping around the catch line. When they're this old, they're quite delicate, to be honest, so they do come off really quite easily, and you can literally just raise the line up and they all sort of snap off, which is really handy. So I'm just going to get up to the last one here. There's some more tendrils here. If I just lift it up, they will break. You take the chain off the end, that's the end of the row. Take that off completely, like that. Pull it. There you go. You can see the chains or the wires now on the ground. And it goes on the ground all the way over to the end of the row. And then you can reattach the chain onto the hook. And it's not terribly easy with one hand. So there you go. So now all we need to do is just put the line back onto the hook nails. That's one done. Just walk up the row and do the next one. And as you can see, it doesn't take too long to do. And you'll see the difference when I've finished. It's starting to look better already. And the last one here. There we go. Right, put the camera down the road now. Okay, we've still got some overflowing ones here, which we'll get rid of in a second. But now we've got a whole heap above the top line, which is exactly what we want. So just as before, I'll get my electric trimmer out and get rid of all these sort of lower awkward ones which are just sort of dangling into the aisle, and we should get then a nice tall leaf wall again. Okay, that was nice and quick. It only took about a minute or so to do one side of a row, which is 27 vines in our case. And as you can see behind me, we're starting to get that nice shape of a proper leaf wall. Now, one of the big advantages of getting rid of all the overflowing canes into the aisle is that you start to expose the bottom of the fruiting line, and I'll show you now exactly what I mean. We've got the fruiting line here going across, and we've got our pre-bloom clusters which are just starting to flower. I don't know if you can see them there, they're just starting to flower. And so it won't be too long, probably a couple of weeks or so, these will be full flower, and then they'll start to set as clusters of young grapes. But we're exposing them now, and we need lots of sunshine and lots of air around these fruit clusters in order to keep that sort of mould pressure down as much as possible. So we're going to see if we can get that mildew and black rot, all that kind of stuff down as low as we can. And having sunshine and wind and air around, or just wafting around them all the time makes life a lot easier. But we've got to do one other thing, and that is to start thinning the leaves around the grapes here. I'll call them grapes, they're not grapes yet. But because if we're shielded, like these ones, or if they're in the shade, we just prevent that sunshine from getting to them. So we're just going to start picking off some of these bigger leaves around them. You don't have to do this now, you can leave it a little bit until after the after the clusters have flowered and they're starting to have a proper fruit set or fruit cluster. But because we've got so many to do, it's no harm in doing a few now. You don't want to go completely overboard in removing the leaves, you just want to make sure that sun is getting to them, and likewise air as well. So we've got some nice clusters on this one. Eventually, as these get heavier, they'll start to droop, and they should sort of develop a sort of nice row of grapes along the fruiting line here. The other really good reasons for stripping leaves off around the clusters is that you expose the clusters to the fungicide sprays that you will probably be spraying onto the vines. So with the leaves gone from around the clusters, you're going to get the spray or the fungicides hitting exactly the parts that you want. Now, if like me, you think that hand picking leaves off grapevines is a complete hassle, then I totally agree with you. Fortunately, there is a little tool that makes it a little bit easier. It's an electric tool made by Stihl, and it's not specifically for picking leaves off grapevines, but it seems to do a job quite well. And it's this little gadget here. It looks a little bit like a shearing tool, and the number of the model on it, if I can find it, is a Stihl HSA25. And all it does, if I just turn it on, it does that sort of action. Now, the way I use it is I just sort of start with the very outer leaves and literally just shave them off. If you go too deep, obviously you run the risk of getting the little clusters themselves, which obviously you don't want. But I'll show you how I use it, and you can make your own judgment. And if you've got any other tools that makes this process a little bit quicker, then definitely put it in the comments below. And eventually you expose all these lovely little clusters to the sunshine and the air. One other feature that I particularly like about this Stihl machine, and you know, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but it has got a clutch inside it. So if you go through anything solid, like a cane, it doesn't go through it. Which is actually really handy, because otherwise you could scythe through everything without knowing, and chop off everything that you don't want to do. So yeah, it's quite a handy tool. See what you think, you know, from the reviews online. But it's a little bit of a technique, and I don't know, I just find it much quicker to do it with something like this than doing everything by hand. Well, that's made a start anyway, but we're going to have to constantly review the vines throughout the growing season, because, as I say, they grow very quickly, and they quickly go out of control. So we'll be keeping on top of it, just so that we get the best chance of having some decent grapes by the end of the season. So yeah, I'll probably be doing more videos on this particular topic, perhaps in a few weeks' time when we come to revisit it. Anyway, this is basically what we're doing. If you're doing things differently in the different parts of the world, then put them in the comments. I'll be really intrigued as to what you do, and we can all learn together, as it were. It's just started to rain again here in Herefordshire, so I'm going to dash inside before I get absolutely soaked again. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, press the like button and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, and I'll catch you in the next video. So until then, bye for now.